We'll take you back a little bit if we can to May 2nd, 2011. Liberal Party of Canada, once dubbed the national governing party of this country. It takes the worst thumping in its history. Stephen Harper's Conservatives win a majority.
A strong, stable, national majority Conservative government.
Jack Layton's NDP forms the official opposition, and Michael Ignatieff, the Liberal leader, is left to answer. What went wrong?
Leaders have to be big enough also to accept their historic responsibility for a historic defeat, and I do so.
Now, to be fair, the downfall of the Liberal Party did not begin with Michael Ignatieff. The sponsorship scandal, the infighting between Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien, that was all going on before Michael. He'd spent much of the previous 3 decades teaching political history at Harvard, Cambridge, writing books, making documentaries.
The BBC has told me there'd be too much public outrage if I did an interview with a loyalist paramilitary.
In spite of all that knowledge, when it came time for Michael to make his run, he found he had a lot to learn. And he recounts those lessons and offers some advice for you would-be politicians out there. A new memoir called Fire and Ashes. Everyone, please welcome back to the program, Michael Ignatieff! Welcome back, everyone. Nice to see you. That's it. How are things?
Good.
Yeah, congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Did you,
I wrote it all myself,
You did?
George.
There's no ghostwriter on this?
No, just me.
Did you struggle with the concept of writing the book?
If you get thumped, and I got thumped in May 2011, writing helps you to kind of sort it out. Yeah. Think, why did that happen? How much do I have to own? You know, how much is some other folks? It was tough to write, because you have to get a certain kind of bitterness out of you. You got to get it all. You know, I'd show stuff to my wife, and she'd say, "Oi, oi, nah," you know. So I rewrote it 2 or 3 times. I feel good about it now.
At some point during that evening of the election, you knew you were going to get. You knew it was going to be bad, right?
Didn't know how bad. I knew it would be bad, but not that bad.
When does it become apparent? At what time of the night? I'm sure it's before we see it, like before we see it on your face. But when did you know?
Oh, the seats started falling like 9 pins. I mean, what's hard if you're a leader, you worked your guts out. You're kind of committed to some guys. And then in Eastern Canada, which is where the avalanche starts, you start noticing that a wonderful guy like Mike Savage, who's now the mayor of Halifax, you start discovering he's just lost his seat. You think, how is that possible? He's such a good MP. What's heartbreaking for a leader is, you're getting beat, but you're also seeing really good people who ought to be in the House of Commons of Canada losing. And that, believe me, is really painful.
I always wondered that guys like you and Layton behind the scenes would have had a respect for each other.
Oh, sure, you had to. He was a political animal to the tips of his fingertips. He also had a great thing in politics, which is he was a genuinely happy warrior. I mean, that cliche is true of him. The smile that Jack had on his face was genuine.
Prime Minister Harper is also quite a political warrior. Like, he's moneyballed this system like no politician I've ever seen. Do you think he's a happy warrior?
I don't think so. He's a scheming, strategic warrior, not big on the smiles. Right? It's, as I say in the book, it's not for nothing he is Prime Minister. He is ruthless, disciplined. He grabbed a bunch of no-hopers by the scruff of the neck sometime in the 90s and said, "You want to be on prime time? Yeah. Listen to me, right? I'm the boss. One step out of line and you get crushed," right? That's how he did it. That's an extraordinary political achievement. I dislike everything he's done to my country, but I have to hand it. This guy's a really serious professional, and I ought to know because he beat me.
Do you feel like you had the discipline?
I had the discipline, yeah.
Could you discipline your party and get them? Because the Liberal Party, when you showed up, well, I remember hearing your name, like, Ignatieff's coming back to do this. I thought, oh, he's walking into one bombed-out village. Because Canadians were...
I should have talked to you, George.
You should have, man. Listen, because Canadians were so sick and tired of Paul Martin and Jean Chrétien's crap, and then Bob Ray, what the hell's going on here? And it was like, we don't know what party this is anymore. I'm not a lifelong member of any party at all, but I thought this is going to be it. So you showed up, and I thought, does he really know what he's getting into? Did you know?
Straight up, no, I didn't. I've been a Liberal since I could remember. I'm a kind of Mike Pearson, Pierre Trudeau, liberal preserved in aspic, you know, like a mastodon, you know, preserved in the Siberian wilderness. And so I come back to a party that had been tearing itself apart, that had been bleeding votes in the West. Another thing that has to be handed to Harper, again, let me be frank, despises politics, but the guy understood earlier than any other Canadian that the center of power in Canada was shifting west, as it should. And we didn't wake up to that music nearly soon enough.
Why did you step down?
I got beat.
But couldn't you have stayed on?
No, I thought if you get beat, let's not fool around here. This was the most serious defeat of my party in our history, and I have to live with that, and I do live with that. And if you lose, I don't think you should get the heck out of the way. And I'd go further than that. I think one of the things our party's had a problem with is former leaders don't keep their mouths shut. And I think now that I'm done.
Yeah?
I'm done.
But what I think is interesting is that we, as voters, for some reason, and your opposition, not just you, but for anybody, we don't let politicians be wrong. And because we don't let politicians be wrong or change their mind on something, nobody that interesting is going to want to get into politics. Because, like, talking to you now like this, when you're not campaigning, there's an air about you that's different than when you're the leader, because you have different things you have. Could this guy run?
Yeah, that's a very good question. If I was doing this and I was still the leader, every darn thing coming out of my mouth would be strategic.
Yeah, and that's why people don't want to vote.
I would have to fit, for very good reasons, a filter between my brain and my mouth, George. And that's difficult if you spent your whole life communicating and saying what you really think. I always tried in politics to tell the truth. I don't believe I consciously deceived the Canadian people, but I was strategic, and you have to be.
Stick around, more with Michael Ignatieff right after this. So what happens when you throw anthropology at a former politician? You asked if he ever inhaled. Michael's answer next.
There's someone else, North Carolina, that has facial hair. Marty Huggins.
Right?
Why doesn't Marty Huggins answer the question? Is he a Taliban or an Al-Qaeda?
Are you kidding me?
Why does Marty Huggins refuse to take a lie detector test?
Why won't he?
And where exactly was Marty Huggins on 9/11?
Bingo.
We're back with Michael Ignatieff. Is there room for attack ads? Is there room in the process for an attack ad?
Everybody says two things about attack ads. All the Canadian public, when I talk to them, would say, I hate those negative attack ads. But let me tell you, they work.
They sure do.
I mean, so that's the reality. People don't like them, but they work. I think there's a case for, you know, strong, sharp debate, blah, blah, blah. But I often have a feeling with Canadian democracy that we're in a kind of boiling the frog on the stove thing. Little by little, we're getting used to more and more aggressive, negative, partisan, bad stuff. And I just think we're going to wake up and the frog will be boiled and it'll be too late. And I do hope, in fact, that people decide after a while, look, okay, I get this, but we're sick of it now. We're sick of it. And those who play that game get punished. Let me full disclosure here, because it's important to be honest about this. We went after Harper. You know, he didn't invent this stuff. Let's be real here. He dished out to me and to Stéphane Dion what we dished out to him. So what goes around comes around. But at a certain point, let's all just stop this. It treats the public like idiots, and it treats us like clowns, and it's not good for the democracy.
What do you think of Mr. Trudeau's situation?
I think he's doing well. I'd sure like the numbers he's got, you know.
And I make no assumptions about Mr. Trudeau's career, because I leave that up to the Canadian voters. But do you think he's too young to be the Prime Minister?
Oh, I leave that to the... I mean, he's, what is he, in his 40s?
Early. He's young.
We've had prime ministers in their 40s. His dad was 48 when he became Prime Minister. I don't think youth is the issue. I think he's got to prove, like we all do, that you're tough, that you're professional, and you care about the people. Simple.
Let me rapid fire questions. 19th century Russian literature. Dostoevsky or Tolstoy?
Tolstoy.
Russian music, Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninoff, or Pussy Riot?
Pussy Riot.
Attaboy, that's the right answer. Now that you're out of politics, have you ever inhaled? Don't answer that question, it's not our business.
Plenty of time.
Describe. If you were the prime minister, would you have tried to legalize it? Can you do that?
I think our drug laws are nuts.
Yeah.
I'd be cautious, I'd be careful, but frankly, I think we can't go on the way we are. One of the, you know, I've talked to lots of people, and we got to have a national conversation, do this slowly, carefully, but I think what Mr. Trudeau is doing is pushing us in the right direction. It's actually responsible. It's not just a political game. We can't go on this way, and we got to change, and we got to change a lot. But that means slow, talking, deliberately, getting everybody together.
It's the brand new book right there. Thanks for coming in, man. What a pleasure. Michael Ignatieff, everybody. We'll be right back.